Alrighty, and welcome back to a brand new episode of a Worthless Film Podcast where the films are not worthless, just the opinions.
Exactly. You
I was
couldn't have said it
waiting.
better myself.
I was waiting for Jack to say "and us" because we had two intros like that.
I thought I'd switch it up a little bit. It'll definitely be back next time. I'm trying to keep the people on their toes.
TBD if we're worthless or not. We'll get back to you.
If we get predictable, we're dead.
Yeah, literally. What's the point? Okay, so Jack, we watched Zack Snyder's Justice League this week. Wow.
Wow is the word I'm thinking as well.
That is, I'm like, honestly, I'm still, okay, so I don't know if we need to reveal this. Cut it out if you want, Jack, but
yeah,
we're recording this on Friday. The film dropped yesterday.
This is fresh opinions here.
I'm not, I'll be honest, I couldn't sleep last night. I was overwhelmed with all of the content that I had taken in.
Yeah, 4 hours of my life.
Oh my gosh,
I feel like my eyeballs are going to fall out of my head afterwards.
Oh, that's exactly it. And I was like, oh my gosh, I got off work at 6, drove right to my buddy's house to go watch it. And then we watched it and I was like, oh my gosh. I left his house because, we had to go get dinner and whatever too. But it's like, probably 11:30 is when I got home last night. And that is just absurd.
Yeah, man, it's wild.
Okay, so I think some of the details. Wait, oh my gosh, I gotta pull up. Well, off the top of our heads, obviously, film came out in 2021. HBO Max original release, directed by Zack Snyder, written by Zack Snyder, who obviously is the director. Chris Terrio, who we talked about on the. If you guys want to know more about our thoughts going into this film, go check out our Man of Steel and Batman v Superman Rewind episodes because.
Yep, exactly.
I'm like,
we're setting the stage for this triumphant moment here.
It is a big release. I'm pulling up right now the IMDb page of the writer. Okay. It's Chris Terrio and one more, and I want to give this person credit because the bar was set low, and this one was surprisingly okay. Wow. Oh, Chris Terrio and Will Beall.
Will Beall. Okay.
So those are our writers on this project.
Okay. Before we get into it, can I give like a little history of what it took to get here for us? The movie.
Absolutely. Okay.
So this is for the listeners who aren't really familiar with what has happened so far with this movie and the great mythology behind it.
It is mythology. That's such the right word.
It honestly is. And if that mythology didn't exist, like this movie would not exist. Like there's been so much behind the scenes to make this happen. So basically in 2016, when BVS came out, 2016, right? Yeah.
I think you're right.
Yeah. The studio started freaking out because Warner Brothers started freaking out because the movie was very controversial at the time. And it was not necessarily the slam dunk hit they were looking for, even though it made $1 billion at the box office. So,
thing came out hot.
Yeah. But it wasn't necessarily the franchise explosion that they were hoping it to be. And especially like the very mixed critics consensus and mixed audience reaction.
It was a very mixed. And this is coming out, simultaneously to that summer was the same time Civil War was coming out. So it's like we had multiple movies of superheroes fighting one another. It's like, even just the casting of Ben Affleck as Batman, there's just so much on the shoulders of this movie.
Yeah. And it's like, so it was already feeling so rushed and already kind of feeling like there's already so much baggage, I should say, with that movie and it coming out. So, with this movie, there was already so much going into making Justice League, and he kind of lost some of his graces with Warner Brothers at that time.
Yeah.
And making because they made him back to back. Like they released Batman v Superman and they were already working on Justice League. So they were seeing in real time reactions to this while he was already working on the next project, and they're kind of like, we don't know if this is necessarily the direction we want to go in. Mm-hmm. And so the studio already started freaking out. And then Zack Snyder's family had a tragedy and his daughter died midway through the process. They had already done almost all the principal photography, but they still had a lot of reshoots scheduled and all those different kind of things to
which is totally normal.
Every movie has reshoots. Yeah. Every movie has reshoots. Every movie has to go back and tweak things and stuff like that. That's totally 100% normal. Anyways, he left the project because he's needed to focus on his family. And also this kind of like, maybe he was fired a little bit too. Maybe it was an amicable like exit. We'd be like, okay, like take time with your family. This isn't really working out for us anyways. So Warner Bros. Brought in Joss Whedon of Avengers and Avengers 2 fame. And he basically retooled the movie and
him and Jeff Johns
reshoots. Him and Jeff Johns. I blame Joss Whedon more than I blame Jeff Johns. Jeff Johns is not innocent though in this scenario.
There's so much mythology around all of this.
Yeah. I'm trying to keep this brief. So anyways,
unlike Zack Snyder, sorry, I had to go there.
yeah, exactly. So basically they brought in Joss Whedon, a veteran team up movie director.
Yeah.
Someone who had success with Marvel.
He gave us the Avengers, man. Like
he gave us the Avengers, and Avengers Age of Ultron, which is, I would say, just as good as Avengers 1.
I don't disagree.
Yeah. And I should say of the same quality as Avengers 1.
Yeah, it's cut from the same cloth.
It's basically the same movie.
Yeah.
A little extra stuff in there. But yeah, so they brought him in to finish the movie, and he basically threw out most of what Zack Snyder had worked on and reshot a lot of the movie.
Yeah.
And Henry Cavill couldn't come back. Well, he couldn't come back at first, and then because he's doing Mission Impossible, and he couldn't shave his mustache for it,
which is
so he had to.
Damn, yeah.
It's the most expensive mustache in movie history. It was like millions and millions of dollars of CGI off the mustache, and it looked horrible. And the movie itself felt just like such a rushed amalgam of a movie. It felt very much like Rise of Skywalker when it comes to like what a franchise film is. And Rise of Skywalker is a similar story. Yeah, but I think the biggest problem I had with the Joss Whedon Justice League is not that it was horrendously bad, because it wasn't. It was most offensive to me because it was just so average and so like by the numbers, run of the mill, like superhero quote unquote movie. And it was just so bland and so unsatisfying. Because if it's bad and if it's like a big swing, that's entertaining in itself.
Yeah.
Yeah, go ahead.
You can say we talked about it last episode or 2 episodes ago, whatever it be, but that's kind of what happened with Batman v Superman. It was like, I don't know, we still like it and we enjoy it. And I think it's kind of falls into that category where it was a big swing. He crammed a lot of stuff in that movie. And like whether or not they all landed, it's like he went for it, which is like, okay, you got to give credit to the guy. And so then to not see him fulfill his vision in this movie, the fans felt, I want to say betrayed. I feel like that's like a mean way to put it, but it's also kind of like, it is how they felt. And so, which is why we got the reactionary response to that Justice League and, going into release the Snyder Cut, which is obviously where we find ourselves now.
Yeah. And I think fans of Zack Snyder were also felt betrayed because along with Zack Snyder feeling betrayed because they basically threw out his entire vision and did such a hard course correction to try to make it like just change so many fundamental aspects about the universe he made, about the characters he made.
Yeah.
And that's why it was just so jarring seeing that movie because it just felt so different. And it felt very much like Joss Whedon was trying to like shove some Marvel stuff into a DC film.
Yeah.
That just had never been anywhere in that universe before. So people online started rallying to release the Snyder Cut. And over the years, Zack Snyder had caught on to that. And he really appreciated that. He's a director who's very interactive with his fan base.
Yeah. On what's the platform?
Accessible. Vero.
On Vero.
Shout out Zack Snyder on Vero. Yeah.
The only one.
He's very accessible to his fan base and he's very responsive to them. Yeah. So that mixed with them really wanting to see his version of the movie sparked release of Snyder Cut. And over the years, it's, there's been some vitriol with some of his fans on the internet and being, horrible people. But for the most part, people were like, hey, we want to see what his movie looks like and we want to see what he can do. So Warner Brothers proposed to him later, like a couple years later, about releasing his unfinished footage.
Yeah.
Because they had basically a lot of a movie there. Just not anything that was like finished with CGI, special effects, visual effects, sound, any of that kind of stuff. So it wasn't a movie you could release. And they were like, oh, let's release the unfinished footage. And he was like, heck no, like I'm not doing that. Like this is like my baby.
Yeah.
So eventually they brought him back to finish the film and do a little bit of extra reshoots to kind of piece in those little extra bits. And if you watch the film, you can see where those reshoots kind of happened, especially at the end. You can tell by Ben Affleck's how in shape Ben Affleck is.
Yeah.
Because when they brought him back for the Joss Whedon cut, he was very not in shape because he was not expecting to have to come back.
Yeah, right.
That late, and he was also like going through a lot of stuff at that time.
Yeah. The whole Ben Affleck arc within the DC universe too is its own mythology.
Yeah. The Justice League reshoots kind of broke Ben Affleck as playing Batman. That's kind of part of a reason why he's no longer Batman.
He
came back for this, but he's still kind of done.
He said in interviews, he's like, and I'm sorry to drag this on, but he's like, that role has been marred with personal tragedy, in his life. And I'm like, it's just sad to see like a fine candidate as Batman, just really kind of take it on the chin so tough on a role that didn't deserve that.
Yeah. So then they were going to release in theaters and on HBO Max. And now with COVID, it's just on HBO Max. In theaters someplace, I think maybe, but not.
They should. Honestly, they should.
I'd love to watch it in IMAX, because it's shot for IMAX. So, which I was a little annoyed about having to watch a 4:3 on my TV for this movie, but whatever.
That's for the Camera Reads Comics fans. Jesse, my boss at the shop I work at, was so mad about the fourth. He was texting me like before the movie even starts. He's like, "F Zack Snyder. This aspect ratio is ridiculous."
Yeah, I'm not really a huge fan of that. I get it that he wants to, keep it in IMAX, but it's like, bro, leave it in IMAX for people who have IMAX. Like, we can go watch it like that in IMAX, but it's like, we don't have IMAX TVs. We have regular TVs.
Hey, you know what? In all of the defense of the fans, this was his vision. So that's what we asked for, and that's what we got. Yeah,
so that's the backstory. Should we do non-spoilers first, like our initial thoughts, and then get into it, or should we go full spoilers?
Dealer's choice. We can go non-spoilers first. I'm gonna try my best, but if something slips,
just like our overall thoughts.
Okay. Honestly, I'm just gonna throw in my rating out of 10 because I've been thinking about it a long time. I'll just start at the end or whatever. Number one, so pleasantly surprised. I think with the vision and what he talked about, what he was going for, he absolutely nailed it. I think. We saw the Zack Snyder, I think, a little too much slow motion footage. I'm like, surprisingly not.
It would have been 3 hours without the slow motion footage.
I'm like, literally.
Instead of 4 hours.
I'm like, okay. I'm like, not everyone is the Flash. And anyway, we'll talk about the Flash sequence, the original one in slow mo. And I'm like, what the heck just happened? But I gave it a solid 8.5, which is like not what I was worried about anticipating like this film, because I just think that I didn't want to get my hopes high because, I saw his original cut for Batman v Superman, and that wasn't my take. I wasn't into that. I liked the other one too. Oh my gosh, Man of Steel. I liked Man of Steel too, but that wasn't like, I thought this movie smoked both of those. It was great.
Oh yeah, I think so too. I think it's definitely a vast improvement over what we saw with Joss Whedon's cut.
Yeah.
Especially because we'll get into details.
Yeah.
But Joss Whedon, like some of those course corrections were just so hard. It felt very much when I saw Joss Whedon's Justice League like watching The Rise of Skywalker versus The Last Jedi. And that, the studio got afraid by that film. And so they tried to course correct so hard in the next film to where it's just like really jarring and just like really unfaithful to what's already happened.
Yeah.
So this film, like, it was such a breath of fresh air to see that not happening, to be it kind of like, oh, I believe this is the same character I saw in these other movies. And I feel like I'm still watching their story. I still don't think Zack Snyder knows how to make a coherent film in under 2 hours. Literally. Or at 2 hours. I think if he had to release this at like a 2.5 hour mark, I don't think he could have done it.
Oh, I don't think so either.
Yeah. But he had 4 hours and I enjoyed every one of those 4 hours.
Yeah. Yes.
That first hour is a little slow. But like that last 2 hours of the film, I guess, like it was banging. Like I wasn't looking at my watch one time. Like once it got going, I was like, I'm buckling in, and I was there the entire ride.
That was so, there's part of me that's like, okay, so not all of this had to be in this film. Like, so I saw some of it and I was like, this doesn't have to be here. And like, that's just me being that guy. Like, I know that, but when it comes to the film overall, I was just like, wow. I don't know. I was very impressed, but on top of that, I just think that like Zach, I don't know. I'm honestly still processing. I'm trying to piece all together my thoughts on this film because I've been chewing on it all day, all night. And then the content also just to play into the release of this film, I think would be remiss to say the other content that's coming out this week. Like we are post WandaVision just hopping into Falcon Winter Soldier. And so it's just like, man, like there's just so many, it's a big weekend for fandoms. So I don't know. I don't even know what I'm trying to say. I'm just so overwhelmed by he went for it in this film. And like, I really applaud the guy. And I was just so pleasantly surprised with how cohesive the narrative was, because I didn't quite see that in the last film, cause I'd say he had more reign over, what's it called? The Batman v Superman's like territory as opposed to Man of Steel. I think Man of Steel was an attempt and it actually went pretty well. Then I thought him going into Batman v Superman was like, okay, this is mine now. And he took all the toys and I was like, ooh, like he almost like fumbled the ball a little bit. It wasn't a perfect film, but also I guess my biggest thing would be this movie wouldn't have been 4 hours if we just got to spend a little bit more time with the characters. If we had a Flash movie, if we had a Cyborg movie, like it wouldn't have been 4 hours. They snuck two origins.
It wouldn't have had to. It wouldn't have had to.
No.
Like we had like a Cyborg origin in this film. We kind of had basically an Aquaman origin in this film too. Like there was a lot more Aquaman in this film than the Whedon cut. We kind of had a Flash origin as well. I don't say like half a Flash origin.
Minimal, yeah.
Yeah. But like we got to spend so much more time with the characters in this film. And I think it's all for the best. I think that I had a point I was gonna say, I forgot about.
It's just me right now. I'm just like still processing.
I'm still processing it. I think it's kind of just like Zack Snyder knew it's like this might be the last time I get to really do something with these characters and this universe I created. So I'm just gonna give it everything I have, and I'm gonna do exactly what I want to do. And it was really fun just to see him like, no holds barred, get to make the movie he wanted to make, however long he wanted to make it. I think it really was nice seeing him have that free reign and have that space to do that kind of thing. And I think it worked out really well. Like, I'd probably give it like I was expecting to like it as much as Batman v Superman. At least as much as Batman v Superman.
Yeah.
And possibly more once I saw the trailer. Like each trailer that came out, I was like, okay, I'm liking this more and more. And I was trying not to have it not be like a Stockholm syndrome kind of scenario where I'm like, I've been in this for so long and thinking about Snyder Cut for so long that I just forced myself to enjoy it because I've given it so much thought and energy. Yeah. Or like I trick myself into liking it because I'm just like, it's captive. But I think I'm genuinely glad like he got to make this movie. And like, I'm genuinely glad like it turned out the way it did. And it's like, I don't even care anymore about like, if this is the choice I would make for these characters in each universe and that kind of thing. It's like at this point in this film, I'm over that. Like I had those kind of questions, those kind of qualms in BVS, but seeing this movie now, I'm like, okay, we're settled into this universe. This is the world. And he's kind of just taking his time. Also, like I was expecting, it turned out way different than I expected too. Like I was expecting it to be very much like the Whedon Justice League, and then just like specific shots changed or cut out or added. But like the pacing and like the editing and like the trajectory of the film was so much different.
It totally was.
There were Go ahead. No, go
sorry.
ahead.
I'm like interrupting you, and I'm like,
go ahead.
It changed it for the better. Like, oh my gosh, like all the pacing and everything was just better.
Yeah. It's like I was expecting like the egregious mistakes in Joss Whedon cut to be like, replaced or fixed. But like for the film to feel very similar. But like even like the way, and there were scenes that we saw that were in the Whedon cut that were in this film still.
Yeah.
But like the linear storyline he wanted to tell, like it went in so many different directions, and it got to destinations that they got to in the Whedon film, like in way different ways.
Absolutely.
So I felt like I was watching a brand new movie. Like, cause I was kind of worried, I'm like, oh, am I gonna get bored? Like, yeah, I've seen this before. This is where they get the mother box, and this is where, Steppenwolf takes this mother box, and that kind of like, it's like some of those things happen, but for the most part, the film went in so many different directions with so many different scenes and interactions and like character moments that it all felt incredibly fresh.
Yeah, I totally agree. And like the way I was trying to, because I open this question up to you too, Jack, because I have friends that are Marvel fans, but they're not DC fans. And like the way I'm trying to describe this film to them is like, they're like, oh, I'd understand it if I saw the other Justice League. And I'm like, they're like, is it the same as the other Justice League that already came out? And I'm like, I think that's wrong. That's false to like the narrative and the mythology surrounding this film, because I think this was the original film. So people looking at it at the perspective of like, this one is, is this going to be same as the other one? I'm like, no, this one is the same. It's the other one that's different. You know what I mean?
Yeah, exactly.
It's like, that's the different movie, not this one. And so it's funny though too, because I'm like, I was telling Jack before we started recording, I'm like, this is our end game. Like for the DC fans, like this is, big mythology, like, and we've been waiting forever for this. The catch-22 is we only had to watch 2 movies pretty much instead of,
Exactly. And we got to the same place.
Yeah, exactly. It's so, I was just, it's like telling them, I'm like, it's like, oh my gosh, the studio kind of dropped the ball so bad. And so now coming into it, now I'm just like, I want more, which is, I'm so spoiled. We're just so spoiled. Like it was good, man. Yeah. It was really, really 8.5. Maybe by the end of the recording, I'll give it a 9. Like, honestly, I really enjoyed myself.
I'm probably like an 8. I'd say it's definitely my favorite out of his 3. Yeah. Like Justice League, Man of Steel, then BVS. Yeah. I mean, there's things in it that there's problems I had in the Whedon cut that I still have with this film. Yeah. Like certain moments or certain like pacing things or character or like dialogue or stuff like that. I'm like, oh, like, I don't know. Like that was pretty lame. That was kind of wonky, but it's nothing egregious to where to where it totally took me out of the film, or I was like, what the heck was that? Like, I had moments like that in the Whedon cut where I was like, what is that?
Like Aquaman sitting on the lasso?
Yes. Oh my God. Okay. Yeah. Oh my God. Or like the Batman like cracking jokes and being like a goofball in the Whedon cut. And it's like, this is just it's taking me out of the movie completely. Like it's ringing my brain.
Was there, okay, before we get into spoilers, I think there's a couple questions I think I have. Number one is, was there anything that from the 2017 cut that you were surprised was actually in? Because, Snyder didn't use any of the Whedon footage. He only used his own footage. And so was there anything, because there's a couple things in the Whedon cut or whatever that I thought was specifically Whedon, but they showed up in the Snyder cut. And I was like, huh. And I think some of it didn't work then, and I still think some of it didn't work quite here. But that's with all the good that I got, it outweighed the bad. You know what I mean? I didn't think it was that bad, anyways. But was there anything you were surprised was in this cut?
Yeah, I was more focused on the things that I hated about the Whedon cut that were not happening in this film. And because I watched it with Hannah, my fiance Hannah. Hello, everybody.
Last night.
Last night. We watched it last night.
Lord.
And I know.
She's really a good fiance right now.
She stayed for almost the whole thing.
Okay, well, trouble in paradise. Just kidding.
No. She's had to go home.
Great.
But we'll finish it later. She's really excited. But we watched we watched the Whedon cut in theaters together. And she was like, yeah, whatever. Like she didn't hate it. She didn't love it. She was like, yeah, that's fine. Like she's not really invested in it as much. Yeah. But we were seeing scenes that were happening that we both hated when we saw that movie in theaters. We're like, what was that? and we were seeing them not happen in this, and we were both noticing, and we were like high-fiving, like, yes, like that's gone, like, thank God. As far as to your question, I think one scene that I knew it was a Zack Snyder scene. I knew the base scene was a Zack Snyder scene in the original cut because Superman had a regular mouth.
Right.
And that's the kind of fun part about that's the only fun thing about the Whedon cut. You can kind of track which scenes are Zack Snyder and which scenes are Joss Whedon by Superman's mouth.
Yeah, and Cyborg, like for his like
and
how does
Cyborg,
Cyborg look? Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And I think one scene was when they bring Superman back from the dead, and he is fighting the League, and like when the Flash is running, and like Superman like gives him the side eye, and is like seeing him while he's running and stuff like that, and like tries to and starts like punching him, and the Flash's reaction shots to that scene were like still I think the funniest moment in the film.
Yeah.
But also like really scary, but really funny too. And it's kind of like that fun, dark humor kind of thing. I assumed that those reaction shots from Flash was a Joss Whedon thing, because it felt kind of Whedon-esque, like, oh, the Flash is a goof, and like he is like terrified by Superman, and like it's pretty funny. But I guess the whole thing was Zack Snyder,
right?
So shout out Zack Snyder, yeah.
There's so many of those. The other one that you see in the trailer was Batman's. Oh, what's your power? I'm rich. I was like, oh wow,
yeah.
that was Snyder. Like, huh?
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm all for levity. Also, again, Jack and I talked the other day, but like Jeremy Irons' Alfred. That wasn't
so good.
That wasn't different or anything other than what we saw, but I just freaking love Jeremy Irons' Alfred, and I just need to say that again here.
Yeah. And I think the difference like between because there is comedy in this movie. Yeah. Like it's not a funny movie particularly, but there are moments of comedy in it. There's moments of comedy in other like Zack Snyder like DC movies.
Yeah.
Like
except
Alfred,
for Watchmen,
like,
sorry.
Batman, except for Watchmen, yeah. Alfred like busting Batman's balls in BVS was like one of my favorite parts of that film.
Great. That's everything I need in an Alfred is like, I don't quite condone what you do, and I'm going to poke fun at you because I'm the only one who can.
I'm the only guy can get away with it. Yeah. Maybe like a Robin, but like, if there is a Robin, but yeah. So, so there are moments of comedy in these films, and I really like it when they're there. It's not like a joke a minute kind of thing, like some Marvel movies. Yeah. But what I hated about the Whedon cut was all the quips. Like he's trying to do Marvel style quips in a DC movie, and it just like does not fit and does not compute. And it just doesn't work. And it's like you can't bring Tony Stark style humor into a DC movie with Batman and Superman and stuff like that. It's like it just is not going to fit. And but like this movie still a comedy, but it wasn't trying to do that kind of comedy, and it worked way better for me.
Yeah, it's so interesting to like kind of see where it's going to go, or like what's going to happen as they move on, because like I just really picture because I think now like there are differences between DC and Marvel, and we're seeing those differences. And like in the interviews and stuff I was listening to is Zack Snyder, because I think it's abundantly clear I'm not a huge Zack Snyder fan. Like, I've watched his movies. He's okay. That's about as much as I have to say about the guy. He would have been who I chose to helm this property, this franchise, whatever it be. It's like never. And I'll say it on the air, like I still, even after this vision, I don't think he fundamentally understands some of the DC characters. And so, but moving forward, it makes me want to see more. And I think there's something so powerful, like in the, I guess very like, and I don't mean this in a derogatory way, in the explicit universe that we got of the DC, like the very clear vision, the very itself vision of the universe DC that we got. I just wish there's something more powerful if the studio just stuck to their guns and just like, okay, let's keep going now. You know what I mean? Trudge through, because it's not like Marvel went down after the double whammy of Iron Man 3 and then Thor 2, It's like that didn't sink the ship. And so I'm like, guys, just like stick to the guns, like just move forward and like give us more content, because Batman v Superman wasn't that great. Man of Steel was pretty great. But then if you picture it, so post Batman v Superman, you got Wonder Woman. Then you would have got which is a major hit.
Yeah.
You would have gotten Zack Snyder's Justice League, which was a bigger hit. Right after that, Aquaman, huge hit. Like, I'm like, we could have, that could have,
yeah. But even, yeah, I'm not sure what I don't think the film we saw yesterday would have been the film we saw in 2017 had he gotten to keep making it the way he wanted to.
Yeah.
I honestly don't know if it would have been as good.
I think so too. I think so too.
Yeah. I think him being away from this franchise and like having time to think about it and ponder it and like all the years to kind of sit on that footage and think about the story a lot more and like have all like the climate around this film like changing and like all the support for it. Like especially compared to the lack of support he had when BVS came out.
Yeah.
And just time to think about like what he wants to do with it. Like, and having the space to do it in 4 hours. Like, I think that all that together influenced like the film we saw yesterday. Mm-hmm. And I think it would have been different had we seen it in 2017, especially since he now knows, or now it's almost certain that he's not going to get to make any more of these. And like the 2 extra sequels he was planning. I think the solo movie with the other sequels planned that he had at the time and we saw in 2017 would not be as good as what we saw yesterday.
I think you're right. Yeah.
I think it's like a cultural artifact, like a once in a chance. It's like a chance occurrence for that this movie happened the way it did when it did.
I think I think you're right, but also part of me hopes you're wrong. That maybe we can garner enough potential, because I'm like, I guess it's pretty clear that Justice League, the theatrical release, is the canon. Yeah, and I'm like, okay, if that's the canon, like, there's room for, because DC's going multiversal. That's why I'm like, if they're doing the multiverse, then just give me simultaneous Robert Pattinson Batman with Ben Affleck Batman. Like, they're two entirely different takes on the same character that are kind of going to be both correct.
Yeah.
And if we're able to have 3 different Spider-Man at once, like, how come we can't have multiple Batman or whatever it be? It's like, I don't know.
I mean, we're going to have multiple Batman with the Flash movie, Michael Keaton.
Yeah, literally. I'm like, we all know that Kevin Conroy is going to be in that movie in some way or another. I'm just going to call it now.
He has to be.
Literally. I'm like, the one true Batman. Okay, can we go into spoiler territory now?
Yeah. Spoiler time. You've been warned.
You have been
lads
warned.
And ladies.
Oh my gosh. Okay. Well, oh my gosh. Here we go. Okay. So let me just go with one of the bigger spoilers. Tail end of the movie, like, whatever, air quotes, post-credit scene.
Mm-hmm.
How did we feel about the post-apocalyptic nightmare Batman that was advertised to us, but really never given to us?
Yeah. I thought it was probably one of my favorite moments in the film.
Really?
Yeah, I thought it was amazing. Yeah, like, I think especially Ben Affleck being skinnier now and kind of having like a lot of the droopier face.
Yeah.
He kind of fit that post-apocalyptic Batman persona, I think, a bit better. And I loved seeing the old cowl, like the BVS cowl versus like the Justice League cowl.
Oh, really? I'm the opposite.
Really? See, I like the BVS cowl way more. Like, I like the flatter face and like the sturdier neck. I think it fits his face better. Like, the other one kind of looks a little too chunky. I don't know. It looks kind of chubby in the face part right here.
I'm just in general not in love with the cowl that they gave us. I just think that I'm not in love with the cowl they gave us because, like, I'm bigger ears or something. I don't know. I just think that if we're going cowls, I really don't even. I'm not super nuts over the Pattinson cowl, but we haven't seen much of it. But I'm still not nuts.
Yeah, I like Affleck's cowl much more than Pattinson's cowl.
Do you like? Okay, but then comparing the Batman sculpts, where does Christian Bale's fit in with you?
I think Ben Affleck's suit is my favorite suit. Like, the BVS suit is my favorite suit out of all of them.
Oh my God. I just, what I really need, I think, longer ears. I'm like, just give me longer ears, man.
I think seeing like them them afraid to stray away from the all black look and like kind of do like a more comic faithful adaptation. Yeah. I mean, like, Michael Keaton's like costume's fairly like accurate and to some like kind of like illustration stuff like that.
Yeah.
And it's definitely been like inspired in like different stories later on. But I think seeing it just looks like a real like comic costume brought to the screen.
Oh, 100%.
And one that was tailor-made for this like Batman. I think he looks great in it. So anyways, side note from the Cowls is like Cowl aside.
Very important tangent though. Very important.
Very important tangent.
You learn a lot about someone when you find out their preferred Batman cowl.
Exactly. Side note, I wish we would have seen some glowing eyes with Ben Affleck's Batman.
What do you mean?
I think like glowing eyes, like comic style, like the white eyes.
I thought you were alluding to another character that was in this film.
I mean, we saw it with the mech suit.
Yes.
In BBS, but I feel like in the regular suit, kind of seeing something like that. I feel like if any Batman was going to have that, it'd be Ben Affleck. But I don't know. I love that sequence. I think especially going from the Injustice scene that we got, like the Injustice Society scene that we got, or you know what I'm talking about, with Lex and Deathstroke.
Yes.
Seeing that, and like also new version of that scene.
I want to talk about that. Yeah,
we'll talk about that. Yeah,
after this.
Seeing that and then going to the Nightmare universe and seeing Deathstroke and Batman working together, with Mira, with Joker, with Cyborg, with the Flash and his time travel suit that we saw in BVS.
Yeah.
And was there somebody else or was that it?
Cyborg, Flash, Mira, Batman, Joker.
I said Joker. Yeah.
Oh, Joker, Deathstroke. No, that's it.
That's it. Yeah. But yeah, I think what I loved about that scene was one, seeing all of them working together. Cause like, one, I believe that Deathstroke would survive up to that point.
Oh yeah.
And two, they're going to team up when Superman has gone rogue. Like, if I were to guess of any of Batman's villains for him to team up with in a post-apocalyptic world, it'd be Deathstroke. Because Deathstroke's somebody, one, he wants to survive, and two, he's super smart. So, like he knows he's somebody who I think is able to compartmentalize any anger he has towards Batman to fight towards a broader goal of saving his own skin.
Because that's kind of, if you look at that character, that's his main motivation. Classic anti-hero.
Yeah, he's just looking out for number one. It's like, and he'll work with whoever he needs to kind of make that happen. So, and then like to get to the Joker stuff, like I honestly love seeing Jared Leto's Joker again.
Yes,
I was stoked about it.
And this is a super important scene too, because technically we have not seen that. That is the first Batman Joker interaction that we have ever seen. And so like there's
in the
car chase in Suicide Squad, but like that they don't talk and there's no talking, there's no real interaction except for Batman on the roof of the car. Great sequence, by the way. But we didn't get to really see any of Jared Leto's Joker. And so that was number one, probably the most dialogue we've heard him say.
I think so. Yeah. And like he still had a little bit of the Jim Carrey thing, but it toned it down a little bit to where it wasn't bothering me as much.
Yeah.
And like, I don't know, like just seeing them have a conversation and like, he tells him that he's going to kill him at some point, but like he's not right now because he needs something from him. But seeing it like, it's that bad that they're working together and like they're even able, like the world is so like gone to hell that they are able to sit next to each other, not fight, and just chat about something. And it's something that's really dark and really gnarly. And like they're still throwing jabs at each other, but that kind of like dark friendship between them, or that dark bond that like they kind of allude to. He's like, "You're my best friend. Like you won't kill me." Like kind of like we need each other. It's like, I'm sure in this world, like I kind of believe that Batman likes having him around in some dark, twisted way.
Yeah.
It felt really good. I liked it a lot. I wanted to see more of it.
So that was one of the things that really didn't sit well with me, is like, not that they were together at the end, but when Batman's straight up just like, "Oh dude, I'm going to fucking kill you." And that's word for word. I'm not trying to be explicit.
Yeah.
He says that and I'm like, okay, come on. Like Batman doesn't kill. Like this is fundamental in the character. And like, otherwise he would have done it a long time ago.
Yeah.
But to, counterpoint myself, I wasn't in love with that specific dialogue piece.
Okay.
But him saying, but like, it's when the Joker reveals, like, we know, and Zack Snyder has always implied, but it's not like for the fans. he killed not Jason Todd Robin.
Mhm.
Joker killed Dick Grayson Robin.
Yeah.
And so him kind of alluding to that, I was like, oh yeah,
Yeah.
like that's, I was down with that. And I was like, oh man, because also it's an alternative world where Joker knows who Batman is. Like, he calls him Bruce, and it's like, whoa.
Yeah.
So
yeah,
that was crazy.
I think in the nightmare world, anything goes for me when it comes to Batman. Like if he kills people, if he doesn't like using a gun, I do not care. Like the world's gone at that point.
Yeah.
And it's like the world has ended. My rules have ended because it's a new world with new rules. So it's like that didn't bother me. If it were like them meeting on the street and he's like, I'm gonna kill you, like then I'd be like, what? Like, what are you saying? But I think Batman just like being at the end of his rope and like just trying to cling to those around him as like a support system when like his former best friend is literally hunting them down. That I was totally on board for it. I loved it.
Yeah. Great. And I'm glad you did. That was my one thing with that sequence. I was like, oh, come on. But I don't.
No, go ahead.
I don't think you're wrong. You know what I mean? I just think if I had my, it's me being a nitpicky fan.
I think it's like seeing Jared Leto Joker in a different light.
That you want to talk about an actor of probably, I'd argue, one of the characters in this entire franchise that has been the most underserved and unfairly ridiculed was, next to Ben Affleck's Batman was Jared Leto's Joker. It was just like,
talk about shortchanged.
We are judging him off of, I'm not even getting like 10 minutes in a film. And then he just is.
It's probably like 5 minutes he's in the movie. Like it's barely anything.
He's barely in the movie. And then he just gets trampled on over and over. And I'm like, that was one of the few casting decisions in DC history. Nobody was like upset when he was cast as Joker. Everyone was hyped. And it's like,
you see it.
Yeah. David Ayer was not, I don't know if it's David Ayer. I don't know whose writing it was that kind of, because now there's a whole release the Ayer cut movement.
Yeah, them not making him the villain of that film was what broke that film. But anyways, it was because I think it was his idea to come back. Like he asked Zack Snyder to come back and do the scene. Like, oh wow, they weren't trying to put Joker in this. It was his idea. So I think he was kind of also looking for I trust Zack Snyder with this, and it's like I'm probably never going to play this character again. So I'm kind of looking for like one last exit to kind of try to redeem this character a tiny bit and like my own performance.
Yeah, absolutely. I think he did great. I was looking for redemption, you know what I mean? And I'm glad he got redemption too.
Yeah.
Okay. We're going to do something weird, but we're going to go back to the boat sequence and then let's go back to the beginning of the film.
Then we'll hit the beginning. Yeah.
Because we're hitting it with the end, but I wanted to bring it up because this is something that was advertised to us, but we didn't quite get. And so we'd be remiss if we didn't bring it up. So now with the boat sequence, where I thought that entire sequence with Jesse Eisenberg, Lex Luthor was Whedon. That was one of the things where I was like, I thought that entire scene was pre-done.
I thought that too.
And I was like, oh, wow. Like this is in this cut. But you had told me last time we talked that, he was that scene in Justice League was coming, but this scene wasn't in Justice League.
They reshot it for the Whedon cut.
They reshot. Okay. So, but that must've just been like him on the boat then, or like even just Jesse Eisenberg's.
Yeah. Cause Joe Manganiello, who plays Deathstroke, he didn't like that version of the scene in the Whedon cut. And he posted a bunch on Instagram. He's like, you should have seen the real version, like the original version of the scene. It would have blown your mind. Yeah. So they, and he was like teasing a bunch on Instagram right before this came out. Like, wait for this scene. It's going to rock your world.
Oh, and also wait. Another character that was so unbelievably more underserved than Jared Leto's Joker was Joe's Deathstroke.
Yeah. Like the 3 seconds we got him and then we're never going to see him again.
Yeah, oh my gosh.
Literally dreamcasting him. Like he's a dreamcast for that role.
It makes sense for someone to play Flash Thompson and then play Deathstroke. That is just on brand. Like, was it Tony Revolori is their next Deathstroke? So.
Well, because so at this time, like when they originally shot the scene, like Ben Affleck's Batman was having his own solo movie pretty soon.
Yeah.
And Deathstroke was going to be the villain of that movie. And so this was all kind of setting up that, him finding out who he is and then having like a Hush style story where he just like finds out his secret identity and like systematically tries to destroy his life.
Yeah. And Deathstrokes are and they want to, I know that they want to do a fight sequence a la Batman Arkham Origins, that really infamous trailer that came out.
Yes.
They wanted to replicate some of that in the film and I would have died. And oh man, it was so good. But anyways.
What okay. So been?
It really is. And now I'm just getting more upset that we don't get more.
Yeah.
Okay. So going back into spoiler territory, let's go over some of the other, did we talk about how we felt about the 4-hour runtime?
A little bit, yeah.
How'd you feel? Like overall?
I wish they would have done it into episodes.
Actually, like every Friday, I couldn't handle that.
I think Snyder wanted to do that, but for some reason the studio's lawyers would not let them put it into episodes. Like they made it be a movie for some weird reason. I was reading about it the other day. So I think Snyder originally wanted to be episodes. Kind of why he did the parts. I think like part 1, part 2, part 3, to kind of break it up a little bit.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, same here. I think we did go into that.
Yeah.
Okay, there's now in this film an entire arc with Darkseid where we got some context into Steppenwolf and kind of why he's doing what he's doing. Oh, I guess this is a 2-part question. Number 1, how did you feel about the change in Steppenwolf's costume? And then number 2 is, how did you feel about, because, that scene was reshot in Whedon's Justice League where I think they made it Steppenwolf who came to Earth, and then all, the predecessors, Atlan and Hippolyta and
Zeus. And
that was Zeus. I was like, who's this?
Zeus and Ares.
Oh, yeah. And so, all those people came. So how did you feel about that being Darkseid? And then how did you feel about the Steppenwolf costume change?
Yeah, I'll hit on Steppenwolf first. I think Steppenwolf is probably one of the biggest improvements in the film.
Absolutely.
He was my, dare I say, my least favorite part of the Whedon cut of Justice League, just because he was like the most cliched, run of the mill, boring to look at supervillains I've probably seen in a movie. I think he was more boring than Malekith in Thor: The Dark World.
Which is tough, yeah.
Yeah, he gave me Malekith vibes, and Malekith was bad in Thor: The Dark World.
Which is sad, too, because I love Malekith. He's my favorite Thor villain. Anyways.
Yeah, and it's like, but even in Malekith, like it had Christopher Eccleston, who was Doctor Who, and he's like a bunch of other stuff. Oh. Like they had a really fun actor playing him, so even like there was something redeeming there for me.
Yeah.
In that film, but it's like, in this, it's like, oh, it was so horrible. And it was like the most like cliche dialogue, vague intentions and motivations for why he's doing this, just because he wants to conquer. Yeah. Like, sure, why not? But in this one, like the redesign, he is so much more interesting to look at.
His knives for shoulders.
Yeah, like they made it so much more fun and like just way over the top. And I actually feel like he's somebody from Apocalypse now.
Yeah.
Not just like some gray guy with a helmet on. And dressed like a knight. And also like giving us that extra time to kind of get a little bit into his motivations and his backstory, especially when it comes to Darkseid.
Yeah.
Like it actually gave like the character some substance to where I was like, hey, like I understand kind of why Steppenwolf is doing this. Like he betrayed, and they didn't have to explain it explicitly. Like we get the gist of it. Like he betrayed Darkseid, most likely trying to usurp the throne of Apocalypse. Yeah. And he's lost favor. And the only reason he's doing this is because he's trying to be able to go back home to Apocalypse and like live life there like he used to. So it's like, I completely understand. And he looks much more menacing and like a monster and like kind of gross to look at. And it's like, ugh, like I understand why Darkseid hates you. Like you look like a little prick. Yeah. But yeah, I think even just giving us that little bit of time with him to kind of understand him, and it wasn't even a lot. Like it was so like
it was like conversation.
Yeah. Just like 1 or 2 conversations and like 5 extra minutes with him. It made such a drastic change with his character. So I was like, yeah, it's maybe not the best villain in the whole world.
Yeah.
But at least I understand him and I understand why he is doing the things he's doing in this movie. And that's enough motivation for me to be on board.
Yeah. And I think that too, this movie did better than Batman v Superman. Steppenwolf, like he was meant to set up Like, it was meant to set up Darkseid the whole time. And so to see him and like, we understand why you have a vague understanding of why he's doing what he's doing. We see the clear power structure within him. Like he's a physical threat. And then, we see Darkseid, who's the real threat,
Yeah.
And so, I think that was very rewarding and very, cool to go through. So I liked this costume. I realized, I think what you said too is really true. I realized that I really liked the costume change. And then I really liked the, like it like breathed with him, which made it look like otherworldly tech. And I was like, that's just cool.
Yeah. It didn't look like he stole it, like his costume from like an American history or like a European history museum. Like
exactly.
Like some like old King Arthur outfit. And it's like, it actually felt like something like otherworldly.
Yes. Okay. So then how did you feel about the predecessor fight with Darkseid? Because frankly, I did not think that if I was like thinking of things to cut out of the movie, I'd have thought that was unnecessary. And they could have just said some dialogue like, it's like the prophecy foretold, and then Darkseid. That's just me.
Yeah. I didn't mind it. I liked it better than I liked it way more than the Steppenwolf fight, in the original cut. Like, cause they still had that same fight and they just switched it out with Darkseid this time.
Yeah. Literally.
It was fun seeing a Green Lantern in action.
Yes, the only time we'll ever.
The only time, I know. There was like a brief Green Lantern shot in the reading cut, but it was like a second and it was gone.
It was him in the sky with the green like plasma trail. That's it.
Yeah. This one we actually saw like a little bit of something, and I was like, okay, like sure, I'm down.
I'm okay with it, yeah.
But yeah, I liked it a lot more than the other one. This one happens later in the film, but like Steppenwolf like hits the ground and like he sees the anti-life equation, and it's like the same pattern that Darkseid sees when he shoves his axe into the ground in the past. It's like, so did Darkseid know then that the anti-life equation was here, and he just forgot, or like did he not know? That was a little vague for me.
Yeah, I didn't know that's what happened when that happened. I was like, I just thought they were just like, it's like almost like stamping something when they like hit their axe. And so I thought that was like their insignia, because Darkseid's was the Omega symbol, and that's like his symbol.
Yeah.
But like Steppenwolf's was different when you saw Steppenwolf's. So I really don't know.
They both like hit the ground, and then you got that similar pattern, like all the lava or like whatever it is, like went into the ground. It's like, and then right after that, Steppenwolf's like, anti-life is here. And I was like, did Darkseid know that? And like, did he just like forget after he almost got killed when he was here, like in the past? That's like 5,000 years ago or whatever.
Okay, and here's my number 2. Maybe you can answer this for me, because this is my number 2 grievance with that scene, and this is why Darkseid came in, and we are supposed to believe he is like the ultimate threat. He's being built up. One rando dude with an axe just axes his shoulder.
Well, that was Ares.
Oh, thank you. Okay. That's who that was. I was like, who is this guy? And like, why I thought it was a random Viking dude.
No, yeah. I think, and also like a detail I saw in this one that was not in the first one. Cause I don't think Ares was in the first one. They added Ares back in this one.
Yeah.
Like when cause the first, like the week only had Zeus, and Artemis, like the girl, the archer. In this one, I think they added in Ares, and it was the same actor, or at least it looked just like the same actor who played Ares in Wonder Woman.
Oh.
That old guy. So I think they were trying to keep some continuity there. Also that wasn't necessarily, I think the point was that's not like a boss level Darkseid at that point.
Yeah.
Like he's still like an early days Darkseid, because he didn't have the Omega Force yet.
Oh, is that what Darkseid has?
Yeah, like the Omega beams.
Oh yeah, I didn't know those. Yeah. I just thought I never knew. I thought he had powers. I just thought those were his powers.
I think like most of the times we see him, like we never really see him get those in the comics. Like he just has them.
Yeah, that's been my experience.
Yeah, but I think like with his like backstory, like it was something he got at one point in his life.
Yeah. You know who
kinda
also was
like
underserved?
Like Thanos without the Infinity Stones.
Exactly. Yeah, like a young, arrogant Thanos. Yeah. I get that vibe.
Yeah.
Yeah. Wait, another Easter egg with Darkseid, because we didn't get much of it. But he was being set up, and that's as much as we got. But freaking M was Granny Goodness. I loved that casting.
Yeah.
I just needed to really mention that, and I was like, oh, that would have been great. And there's actually, for the fans, there's still potential for that too, because it hasn't been removed from the slate. But Ava DuVernay, and that Tom King New Gods movie is still supposed to be coming out. Okay, then here's something that you may be able to help, but I wasn't a huge fan of, but it's a major Easter egg. Martian Manhunter. You had told me it was Swanwick, and I was like, ooh, his voice, perfect thing ever.
Yeah.
But for me, it was the reveal. I was like, that was what just happened there? He's like, okay, I need you to like stop mourning your husband. And she's like, okay. Leaves the room. It's not Martha Kent. I'm like, what the heck?
Yeah. So that was in the original concept art. That scene, like they storyboarded that scene like at the beginning. So that was like in his original vision for that scene to happen. I thought it was, I don't know. I felt like such a nothing moment and kind of just a waste of the character.
It
like,
wasn't
have him show up in the final battle. Like
literally, I'm like,
yeah, like it'd be so easy.
If he's here now, I'm like, he's here now.
Yeah. And like the CGI did not look great. No, it looked kind of like CW CGI.
Yeah, it did.
It honestly it looked too. I think I know it looks different than the Supergirl Martian Manhunter,
of course,
but it looks similar enough to where I was like, is this really that different? Like, because you see in the concept art for it, like he has like the narrow face, like he does in like some of the comics or like in the Justice League animated show.
Yeah,
like that very narrow, long face.
Yeah.
I thought we were gonna have something like that. No, because like I was like, but he looked nothing like the concept art. And I was like, this just kind of this screams CW to me, which is fine. And it's like, and I get that they probably
we like the CW. Yeah, sorry.
Yeah. But it's like, I think honestly part of it is like for such a brief appearance in the movie, they probably didn't want to spend that much money to make the CGI like incredible.
Yeah.
They only gave him like $40 million to make all this. So it's like they probably put most of that towards Darkseid and Steppenwolf.
And it looked great.
I get. Yeah, and it looked, I don't have any complaints about any of that. So I'd rather have them look good than Martian Manhunter look good for 10 seconds.
Literally 10 seconds.
Yeah. And also like in the end at the post-credit scene when he reveals himself to Batman, like he kind of does the thing. And it's the problem that I had in the WandaVision finale, or not the WandaVision finale, in like 2 episodes before it, when Agatha Harkness reveals herself to Wanda. Yeah. And she's like, the name's Agatha Harkness. Like Wanda's supposed to know who that is.
Yeah.
it's for us, the viewers. Like that's the viewer. That's her telling us, the viewers, who she is that we've known all along. It's like, but that kind of takes you out of the show and takes you out of the movie when that kind of thing happens. It's like, yeah, I know you're talking to me. You're not talking to the character. You're telling me who you are. Yeah. And it's like, some people call me the Martian Manhunter. And it's like, okay. Like what?
Very like specific name people call you.
Yeah, it's like you really need to say your superhero name right this second. Like you can just say, "Hey, I'm Jean."
Yeah, I'm Jean Jones.
Yeah, it's like that would feel much more natural. Him saying, "Some people call me the Martian Manhunter," and it's like, I was like, okay, like sure. All right. Roll credits.
That was good. And then they're like, okay, back on this yacht. I'm like, wait, what?
Yeah.
It was like the hips kept coming.
Yeah.
Okay, that was the one thing. Is like, yes, I felt like it wasn't as much as a reveal as much as it was random. That's what my buddy said. And I was like, oh,
it felt very random. Yeah.
I was like, oh, okay, you're here now. And I'm like, that's my like, again, with this movie, the good really outweighs the bad, and that's not bad. That's exciting. I'm glad to see this character I love, but it's like, oh, okay, like now what?
He didn't serve any function in the movie. He literally is only in the movie because Zack Snyder wanted him to be that character eventually, and he knows that he's not going to get to show him as that character later on. So he's like, hey, I just want to remind everyone that I was going to do this thing. So here's this character that I was going to use one day. Yeah. He's not doing anything in this movie, but I was going to show him sometime. So there we go. So.
Yeah, I was like, okay.
Yeah.
Okay, I don't have too many more questions. How did you like the extra time spent with Cyborg and the Flash?
Okay, so I think the character like changes were the best improvements in this film. Mm. So I think Cyborg got the biggest character upgrade out of any of the characters. I think everyone would agree with that. Because he was actually in the movie. Like he was not in the movie in the deleting cut. Like maybe like we have like 5 minutes with him. But it's like it, and I feel so bad for Ray Fisher.
Yeah, the last time we're ever
kind of like talk about this. Like, yeah, one's the last time we're ever going to see him, and two, it's like he's talked very publicly about like how much like Joss Whedon like kind of like emotionally or verbally like abused him on set and all this stuff, and how like the studio did not like support him, and like how Zack Snyder had like plans for him to kind of be like the emotional heart of the movie.
Yeah.
And Whedon cut all of that out.
All of it,
like
yeah.
All his backstory. Yeah, like literally all of it. We saw him maybe for 5 minutes in the Whedon cut. And so that was really disappointing when I saw that originally. But in seeing this movie, like, and he was like honestly one of the main characters in this film.
Yeah.
Like it was his story that was like the emotional heart of it. And like it was his journey that we kind of followed the most in like kind of figuring out who he is. And I had a great time with it. Like I'm sad we're not going to get to see a Cyborg movie because I feel like he would have some great stuff to do.
Yeah.
But yeah. What do you think? What do you think?
I think his powers demonstrated in this film were like very cool. I actually really like the way they did like the jetpack kind of sequences, like where he could fly around, because I've never formally seen Cyborg like fly, but it makes sense. If you're a big tech guy, you can have lasers coming up the wazoo, like you can have jetpack, like it totally makes sense. Yeah. And so I really liked the way
they gave him his Man of Steel flight moments.
Yes. And we needed that. And like, I think that the demonstration of his powers too, like where we kind of had the flashbacks and going in his head and his dad explaining to him, hey, this is actually what you can do. Like he's like, you may not want to talk to me. I thought that his origin story that was, kind of pigeonholed into this movie, not this one, but even the one before it, but I still think they could have spent more time with him. I thought that it was pretty well done, but I feel like some of the beats that could have happened, like I felt like Aquaman having to explain to the Flash that he has no right fighting in this battle because of how much pain he's endured like recently. I was like, I don't know. That just didn't I don't know. That just didn't do it for me. I was like, I just didn't like that dialogue.
Yeah.
Or like what it was trying to do or convey to me. Cause I'm like, Diana just apparently, according to Steppenwolf, lost her mom, Bruce, like Flash's dad's in jail. Like, this is not like, you guys are a ragtag group of people. Like, it's not, everyone has stakes, And so I don't know, that just didn't do it for me. And him fulfilling that need as the emotional heart, I don't know if it landed for me, but I liked it. I like the extra time, just giving time to those characters to shine and just putting context into all of it is my favorite thing. Just give me context. So that was really great. And that's, I guess, probably why, again, the Martian Manhunter thing fell flat, because I had no context, so, but otherwise.
Yeah. And I think that's like the biggest, go ahead.
You can go.
Yeah. It's like, I feel like that's the biggest difference in this film is that giving us that time to get to know these characters and to kind of like just sit with them like for extended periods of time and like kind of get in their headspace, figure out where their heart's at or where their mind's at, like what their motivations are in all of this. Like it makes us care about them to where we did not care about them in the previous film. Like we kind of cared about Batman a little bit, but then like it felt like a different Batman in that movie. And we haven't really spent enough time with Wonder Woman and like that in this part of the universe to really, or even in that film to really care about what she was like going through or thinking about. So it's like in this film, in spending all these extra time with these characters, like we started to feel for them and we started to empathize with them and root for them. Like I wanted them to win. Like I was on their side. Yeah. What did you think about the Flash in this film?
Flash. Wait, really quick too. I wanted to, with Cyborg's origin. I got it right. I thought I said Oregon, but I was about
origin
to
trail.
Literally. I really like how they tied in Ryan Choi, who is, for the fans, he's the Atom, and he was like, oh man, the nanotechnology head at Star Labs. I was like, oh, that's great. And I was like, oh man, you're setting that up too. That could have been really cool. Flash. I loved. Okay, so I don't really like the quippy Flash. If anything, I think that like, I don't know. Mm-hmm. I don't find anyone on the Justice League very funny, like, which is fine. I think it can be Flash. Like they kind of gave him that construct of him being quippy and stuff like that is very much from like the Justice League animated series, I think. And big props to Michael Rosenbaum.
Wally West, not even very young.
Yeah, exactly. And
Yeah,
that one,
seriously.
yeah. And so I'm like, big shout out to Michael Rosenbaum for kind of making that a character feature that can like, work. But I liked Ezra Miller's Flash a lot. Like I thought my favorite little beats with those characters, like, in DC culture is like Flash is always late, even though he has super speed. I just love that. Like, I don't know. It's just such a little character moment. Like Lois Lane is like this amazing reporter who can't spell. I just stuff like that. I'm like, oh, that gets me every time. And so, and Flash is also just, when you talk about cinematic superheroes that you can make cool, Flash is I think it's easier to make Flash look cool than it is for Batman to look cool. You know what I mean? Like all those super speed sequences were like beautiful and amazing. And like him saving Iris West, like that was one of the coolest, like for the fans that may not know, Kiersey Clemons is confirmed Iris West. And so him saving her.
We'll see if she's still Iris West in the solo film.
No, they said it. They confirmed she's back.
Oh, she's going to be in that film too?
Yes.
Oh, awesome. That's good.
Yeah. I love that. I love that for both of them. And so Ezra Miller, I actually really like as an actor. I think he has the chops, and playing the youngest one on the team, whatever, ragtag. I liked it. I liked his super speed. I liked his kind of cluelessness. He was our window into like what their world would be. And they needed someone like that. And whether or not I think that's the Flash, I'm glad they chose him. You know what I mean? Because it could have also easily been like Diana, because she doesn't understand man's world. But I guess Catch-22, she's been there for 100 years now. So I don't know.
Yeah, true. Yeah, I think the Flash was right next to Cyborg was like the biggest upgrade. Because like it's like in the reading cut, I felt like they were trying to make him Spider-Man so hard. Like just trying to have him be the young, goofy, dorky, quippy kid.
Yeah.
And that's just not him. And that's what like, it's like, and there's still funny moments like in this film. Like there's moments where he's funny, or he's kind of like, he's the youngest one there, and he's like really inexperienced. He's brand new.
Yeah.
He's still kind of learning about his powers. And like he's, it's okay that he's like a little quirky and like having fun with it.
Yeah.
And I didn't mind that. Like there's little moments of humor that are like, that feel okay. It's like they just took out so much of that extra quip stuff. Like the brunch conversation he had with Batman. Like, what is brunch? Like, oh my God. Like I wanted to blow my brains out when I heard that in that movie. I was like, this movie was maybe funny 10 years ago, and it wasn't funny 10 years ago.
My favorite commentator said that line was like it's a 50-year-old man writing a young adult who clearly doesn't understand what young adults talk about. Yeah,
it is. It radicalized me. I think that scene in that first movie radicalized me. Like Jack, I was so upset when I heard that.
Jack's like, I don't even go to brunch.
It made me viscerally angry at Joss Whedon for letting that happen in that movie. I was like, this is and doing it twice, like doing it at the end of the movie too.
He's like, oh,
and with the Superman race scene. Yeah, and he's like, he says something about brunch. He's like, oh, don't get me started on brunch. Blah 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 blah. I'm a funny teen, and it's like, no, you're not. Like you're 80 years old.
And also, wait,
never met somebody under 20.
Yeah, one more with that is that I think. Oh, I forgot what I was going to say, but you're great. You're great. Brunch is great. I just think that Barry's a freaking great character, and I liked him. I guess that's much.
Yeah, but we're seeing Barry like like Barry's one of the most powerful characters in this universe, and we're seeing that potential there. Like he's not there yet, like because he's still a goofball who trips over himself constantly. But we're seeing those glimpses of his like immense power and how he's afraid to tap into that because he doesn't think he can control it.
He's afraid.
And we see it later in the film, like he goes for it. Yeah, he's afraid, and it's like I want to see more of that. Like I was really enjoying. I'm like, yeah, like I don't buy him being the quippy dork, like making jokes about everything all the time, being the jokester. I get him being insecure about his powers and being afraid to use them because he knows how incredible they are. Yeah, and he's afraid of what will happen.
And his like naivete, like I think that's the feature I loved. Like that's the quirky, endearing part about him, and that's what makes him accessible to us. Because it's like I don't know what it's like, and here's a prop to the Whedon cut. I did like the moment when he was with Batman, and they're rescuing Silas Stone, and he's like, I don't know what to do. I'm afraid, and Batman's like, just save one person.
Yeah,
and it's like, I liked that moment. And it's I would have liked that moment if it was in the third act.
in that film. Cause that film, like because at that time, like they weren't supposed to be working together well. And that's kind of what happened in this film. Like they weren't working together in this scene and things went sideways. And they were still trying to figure out how to do things together. And that scene, in that like speech that Batman gave him, it felt kind of like a cliche third act scene where it's like, no, you can do this, Barry. Like you've had these missteps, but you can do this thing. Yeah. And it's like, it didn't feel it felt out of place in that film. And in this film, we saw Barry do the reverse time thing and like go back in time to save everybody. And he kind of had that conversation with himself. Like he didn't need Batman to do that.
Oh, sorry.
He had that moment. Yeah. I say, he had that moment of like, okay, it doesn't matter if a question of if I can or cannot do this. I have to do this. And like, I have to try.
Oh my gosh. Okay. Like, let's just talk about the climax of the film then, because I think that's the thing I think that surprised me the most, because frankly, in the last movie, I was burned in the climax of the film where they just kind of like shoved it out. Like, I just keep thinking about them nuking Superman and Doomsday, then them coming back down to the ground, and Doomsday has freaking nuclear like stomping explosion powers. And I'm like, I just don't know what happened. And then they shoved everything into the very end and we're like, what just happened? Yeah. This one, I think, was the best, like one of the best superhero climax fight sequences I've ever seen. Like it was because it portrayed in the same ways it's everything the Whedon cut like didn't have in that moment. They portrayed as everything was going to be like, it almost looked like, oh wow, are they going to make it? Are they going to make it? We don't know. And then it's like, oh, all hope got lost when Barry couldn't hold his potential because Cyborg was waiting and Steppenwolf was a genuine threat to everyone there. And then that was like, oh, I actually just loved that so much. And then Barry like pretty much got laid out by one of the cannons because Cyborg was taking too long. And I was I was like, oh my gosh, like what's going to happen? And then this was my favorite Barry sequence too, when he just says like, Batman's like, Barry, are you okay? Barry, are you okay? We need you right now. And he's like, I just got the wind knocked out of me. And you could tell like his voice is quivering, like he's crying, I was like, oh,
he's scary.
You looked and he got freaking like gutted. He got hit once earlier in the movie and he was like, ouchie. And like, now he's like genuinely hurt. And he's like, it's not about me right now. Like I need to save everyone. And then he is like, he was too late. And he even did the phasing thing, which was so freaking cool. And then he's like, he did it. I think I love that Superman wasn't the one to save everyone and kind of Barry being the one to do it. I was like, oh my gosh, that was just so freaking perfect. I just need to get that off my chest. Yeah.
No, I agree. And bouncing off that, it's like in the Whedon cut, like, Superman kind of came back and he was like, I'm all perfect again. And he was like he was a little over OP in that last film. He was still pretty OP in this movie too, but like it felt more natural in this film. But basically when Superman came back in the first movie, I didn't feel like anyone was in danger anymore. Yeah. Like it felt like, okay, problem's gone. Like this is like Steppenwolf's done. Like problem's over. In this film, Superman came back and the world still blew up.
Yeah.
And it's like, and he was still wrecking shop and he was still like tossing around Steppenwolf like he was nothing. Which I'm fine with that because like Superman should be way more powerful than Steppenwolf. But despite that, they still lost. And like the world still blew up. And it's only because of Barry and like his power that only Barry has that he was able to, despite his fear, despite his insecurity, kind of press into that and display this incredible power in reverse time. And it's like, so, I love that a lot. I thought it was amazing.
That was like one of them.
It felt like, so it felt like Superman had a place in the team now, rather than just being like a team and Superman. Like, Superman could take care of all of this for us. Like, why are we here? It's like, no, he couldn't.
Yeah, and even the Superman scene with Steppenwolf at the end when he kind of came back. Also, it would be, beside myself. I would be beside myself if I didn't mention like the beauty of the black Superman suit. I did not think that would work on camera. It was beautiful. It
looks so good. Yeah.
Or I'd be remiss. That's what I meant to say. I'd be remiss if I didn't mention that.
The
fight against Steppenwolf, I thought was so impressive because he was just like, Steppenwolf wasn't a challenge when in the Joss cut, but in the Snyder cut, when Superman's like, I still felt like Steppenwolf was a threat, and then the added pressure of the looming Darkseid. I was like, I was down with it. I was just
it's like, and once Superman got there, like naturally the threat comes down a little bit.
The power dynamic shifts.
Superman. Yeah. But once Superman got there, the dark side of it all became a lot more real. And Darkseid, the door was literally opening up to Darkseid, and to where it's like, okay, now like where this threat I feel like has been mitigated a little bit, the bigger threat is now presenting itself, and I'm still fearing for the characters at this point.
Yes,
because I feel like when Superman came back, it kind of took me out of the movie a little bit, because I was like, okay, I feel like the movie's over. Like I was saying earlier, it's like, but in this one, like, they kept pushing the envelope about what the threat is and how big the threat actually is, to where I never lost interest or never like stopped fearing for the characters. And it was really well done, I think.
I think so too. I think exceptional.
Yeah. And it's the fight. Real quick, the ironic thing is, I think one thing I really liked about this fight, and that I feel like sometimes in like some of these kind of films, like it can just feel like a big CGI mess about what the final, like the third act is, and just like laser shooting everywhere and stuff flying all over the place is kind of hard to follow. And this one kind of felt like what I liked about the Avengers, which is ironic, in that the first Avengers were kind of following different groups of characters fighting the battle in different ways. Like we're seeing Captain America fight on the ground. No, in the original Avengers.
First Avengers, okay.
Like with the Chitauri. Yeah. Like we're seeing Captain America fight on the ground. We're seeing Hawkeye fighting in the skies and shooting arrows. We're seeing Black Widow fighting the runway. We're seeing Iron Man fighting the big like flying monster. We're seeing Hulk smashing things around, and Thor like plugging up the hole with lightning. It's like we're following these different characters in different little vignettes with the overall battle, and it's making it feel a lot more grounded and like a lot more like I can follow what's going on. And I feel like this film did that as well too, and without Joss Whedon. And that it was like we were following Batman and him like kind of taking out parademons and like making his way to the top and like getting the shield down. We're seeing Cyborg working on the boxes and like fighting along the way. We're seeing Aquaman fighting through the skies and just like being Aquaman.
Yeah, being
we're seeing
dope, bro, Aquaman.
And the Flash fight, being dope, bro, Aquaman.
Yeah.
But we're all seeing them in different little areas, kind of fighting the battle. Like Aquaman and Wonder Woman fighting with Steppenwolf. Like everybody's kind of doing their own thing, and it made it feel a lot more real and like much easier to follow rather than just like big explosions and lasers everywhere. To I'm like, this just like a sensory overload.
I totally agree. And I think that it wasn't sensory overload. I really like the way you put that, because it had the potential to be, and it totally didn't. And also I was really fascinated by the way that Steppenwolf was kind of able, he didn't, not quite him, the Flash, or him in Batman, but the way Steppenwolf triggered Diana, I really liked. He's like, he held her Amazonian like heritage against her. He's like, oh, like your sisters, you left your island. And I was like, oh, like, he's like, you're the last one. Like you abandoned your post. And I was like, ooh, like, I just love that. And then, because when I had originally heard, because I remember him saying like, oh yeah, they open up a boom tube to Darkseid and they cut off Steppenwolf's head and send it back to him. And I was like, oh my gosh, that sounds a little grotesque. It was just in my opinion. And then, but finding out why Diana's the one who did that, absolutely. Like, yep, totally 100%. All I realized too within all of this Snyder Cut stuff is that I could not be a guy in the like boardroom like saying yes or no to what happens or like in the script, because I'd be like no, and then I saw it and I was like, oh yeah, like,
oh yeah,
I was totally sold.
Oh yeah,
yeah. Oh wait, and I wanted to say with Barry in the redeeming all of it, him motivating himself by like not knowing what's going to happen and saying, Dad, like, I love you. You were the best dad ever. I was like, oh my, like, I just, that hit me like so hard, like so deeply. I just loved that.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm like going to cry right now.
You know who I also think got like a great upgrade in this movie was Aquaman.
Really? Tell me how. Not that I'm like really like he was disserviced, but wow, how so?
Yeah. Well, I feel like in the Whedon cut, they kind of leaned so hard into the dude bro like aspect of him. like the my man kind of thing, and just like, yeah, I'm Aquaman. I like hot chicks and like I like drinking whiskey and stuff like that. It's like that. I felt like they gave him way more layers in this film.
Yeah.
Like we kind of got to sit with him like in his like disdain for like the Atlanteans and like his mom and like his own culture and like trying to like and kind of like at war with himself and like what world he belongs in and like not really feeling like he belongs in either. And I felt like they kind of toned down that like my man bro dude thing a lot. Like there's still that my man scene.
Yeah, literally.
But, like
I was surprised that was in this one, you know.
Me too. Yeah. But they toned everything else surrounding that down to where when I heard that, I was like, yeah, like he's stoked. Not like, oh, this is the caricature of like the my man bro thing.
Yeah.
And like he was like way more like pervy and like horny in like the original one. Like they had this like weird like subplot thing with him being like super horny for Diana and like the whole lasso thing. None of that stuff was going on.
Yeah.
And it's like, and even just taking that out, and I'm like, okay, in like the Whedon cut, he's like this pervy douchebag who is like a bro frat guy. And in this one, it felt much more like, no, he's angry at the world and he doesn't want to help anybody because he kind of hates both worlds because he feels like they've rejected him.
Yeah, they both did.
And he's like this. Yeah. And he's like, because he's the skeptical one in the group. Like, he's the one that's kind of questioning Cyborg and like his intentions. He's the one that in the moment questions like the Superman thing. And he's the one that's kind of like calling everybody on their BS a little bit. And he's like a little bit more hardcore in this one too. Like they give like the set, like this, his spear, his mom's trident, like a little bit of an upgrade.
Yeah.
And like give it like a little bit of like some powers that it didn't have before.
Yeah. That one made me laugh because
like
I was like, I felt like that one was like high, like, I was like, I don't think that was in the original script. And I think they are trying to make it canon within this. I was like, that was not his mom's trident before when this script was written.
Yeah. They added that and they gave it like some some energy blasts or whatever they did not have originally, which I was fine with.
Yeah, I think I said it earlier, but
I felt like
I do think that the Aquaman like the Atlanta stuff they put in this movie really worked best with this film, but I'm kind of glad they graduated into the James Wan kind of perception of it. I'm glad it had more color.
Oh yeah.
I'm glad Mira lost her accent. Volko looked good.
Yeah. I'm glad she lost her accent, but they still had her accent in the nightmare sequence in this film.
Yeah.
And they shot that recently. So it's like, I don't know why you brought that back.
I was like, why are we British? We don't have to be like.
Yeah, exactly. I think just in general, like all the characters, like all the interactions between the characters, like were so much more improved. Like there was a lot of like contrived like arguments and like beef between a lot of the characters in the Whedon cut. Like a lot of the Batman, Diana stuff, like them butting heads, like didn't happen in this movie, but it happened in the Whedon stuff. And like all them like fighting over whether or not to bring Superman back. That wasn't happening in this film either. They were just like, yeah, we need him. Like, let's bring it back.
Yeah.
And Aquaman was showing like disdain or like skepticism in the moment, but beforehand they were having these like grand arguments and like pushing each other about whether or not to bring him back, and it just felt like so like manufactured. But none of that happening. Like I actually believe they were a team and like kind of enjoyed working together and like were actually excited about coming together to save the world.
Yeah. And I think that's the part of this movie that was so like, that was the best part about this movie. You know what I mean? They were glad to come together. They're glad to work like it all made sense. And that's why it's like, yes, it was a 4-hour movie and it long, but I never thought like it dragged, you know what I mean? Like really, I was like, wow, that one sequence I wasn't a huge fan of, but like otherwise I thought the whole thing was really exceptional. And I just really I was into it. And so seeing that happen, I would have, I was a fan. So I liked that. And it was so also good.
It was good.
That's all I have to say. Like, I was like, dang.
It's kind of like I wish it wasn't as good as it is, because I feel like it shouldn't be as good as it is. But it honestly works so well. Like, it should not be this good, but it is this good. Like, it's not perfect, but like it's not
perfect.
It's it's exceptional that it came together in the way that it did, I think.
In more ways than one, I think exactly what you're saying. In more ways than one, though, because I'm like, even just the fact that the film exists and we have this cut to cherish and hold dear, but then on top of that, like sequentially, you know what I mean? Just like the narrative within it is just, I'm so surprised with how well it works.
And I feel like everybody there like really wanted to be there. Yeah. Like one of the most distracting things for me in the Whedon cut was Batman. Like, it felt like Ben Affleck, you could tell he was so exhausted and he did not want to be there for those reshoots. Yeah. Like, you could see it in his face, you could see it in his acting, like, and his performances. And it's like, and like, he looked like he was dying on set in that cut. But in this one, I feel like it's the best we've seen him. Like, honestly, like, I feel like it's the best we've seen Batman in this universe.
I actually could have, I could have used more Batman. That's just me. I just feel like
I could use more of them. Yeah.
We had other heroes and I'm like, so I was satisfied.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's like, we got to see a little bit more of J.K. Simmons as Jim Gordon. That was kind of fun.
And he was talking to Crispus Allen, who is a Gotham Central character that I just adore. And I was like, that's a great like allusion to that. I was like, oh my gosh, fun. Like Ryan Choi, Crispus Allen. I was like, as the core DC fanboy I am, I'm like, that is just filling all my needs, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. Also, side note, one thing that was existent, and I know I'm comparing these two films a lot to each other, but it's like,
it's the same film.
You know, how could we not? Yeah. How can we not compare them? Because they're, you know, that film is the reason we have this film. Literally. But literally though, one thing that happened a lot in the Whedon cut, which had not happened in BVS or Wonder Woman, was like Diana being like sexualized a lot.
Yes.
So in the Whedon cut, like when I saw it in the Whedon cut, it was distracting because we had not seen stuff like it before. But like we got like a lot of like close up butt shots of her and like all these like really like sexy angles, which was like really distracting. Yeah. And like the Flash like landing on her boob scene. It's it's funny because he landed on her boobs. You get it? It's like, yeah, we get it. Like, hilarious.
Stop.
And it's like stuff that's just like, we don't need this. And it's like, and like, she's one of the most powerful characters and the best characters in DC Comics. And it's like, you're treating her like you're disrespecting her. And I was like, this sucks. But all of that was gone. And like, part of that was like the Aquaman, like, saying like, oh, you're so sexy, like you're gorgeous, like I want to take you out and all that stuff, like when he's on the lasso of truth. Yeah. And it's like turning her into like this like sex object. It's like, oh, it was so gross like watching it in that film. And to see like literally all of that gone in this movie, even like the shots, like I remember the shots in that first cut where I was like, that's kind of egregious. Like why they have to do that? They're just not in this film.
Yeah.
And I was like, that you're giving Diana and Wonder Woman and like Gal Gadot like the respect she deserves. And it was like, she is literally like one of the most important characters in this franchise. So like
in this universe,
happy they treated her as such. Yeah. Yeah. And it's like, so I'm happy they were treating her as such.
You know,
her and Bruce are like the backbone of the team.
Yeah. Yeah. There's experience and then there's the rookies. And that's what I like. And I like also that Aquaman was somewhere in the middle too. Like he was a capable person. Like he wasn't clueless. Like Flash and Cyborg being even in the scene of them digging the grave, I was like digging up Clark's grave. I was like, oh, that was great. Like I liked that the three elderly, you know, seasoned vets, and then the two guys. Oh, I liked that. But I totally agree. We do have to give mad props to Zack Snyder for casting Gal Gadot because she came from BVS and that vision, not Patty Jenkins' Wonder Woman. So that is exceptional.
And if she doesn't work in this film or like in these films, like the franchise just doesn't work. Like she has to be like, it's like part of it works because she's playing that character. Yeah. And she's so good at that character.
I totally agree.
Yeah.
Okay. I think we answered the 1 out of 10 question, the ranking out of 10. So I think we can, I'll stand by. I don't know if I honestly now after talking about it, I'm a 9 just because that's me. I'm just so hyped.
You predicted it and it came true.
I'm like, I'm buzzing because I'm also this is freaking since day one Cameron's DC fan. So absolutely.
Yeah.
And And we did see love of the material in there, and that's another reason why.
Yeah.
But I'm gonna ask you, I think, if you have answers, 2 questions, 2 more,
Okay.
2 final. Jack has places to be, guys. I'm
like, guys, very busy man.
Go listen to our other episodes if you like this. He's a busy guy.
And then rewatch this one again.
Yeah, exactly. I'm gonna rewatch this.
Re-listen.
And then check out what we got next, because we got cool stuff coming up for you.
We got so much good stuff coming up. You don't even know. Don't even worry about it.
Okay, who was your favorite character in this film?
Man, I oh my gosh, that's so hard. I think Batman still, just because I feel like it's the last time we're probably going to see him as like a bat. Like, well, I think we'll see him briefly in Flash movie, right?
Yeah.
I think he's gonna be the Flash movie. Yeah. We'll see him briefly in the Flash movie, but like this is the last kind of hurrah we're gonna see him as Batman, at least for now.
Fingers crossed, really.
And like, fingers crossed, and like seeing him put in the effort and like still like not be so jaded by the character in this film like he was in the Whedon cut, like it lifted my spirits. And it made me so happy to see him just like crushing it as this character, because I think he's truly like one of the best things that's come out of like superhero IP in like the last like 5-10 years. Like, he's my favorite Batman. I think he's the best Batman. Yeah, I think he's the best Batman, and there's things I'd change about him,
of course,
but like this movie solidified it for me, and that like everything he brings to the character I think is so good, especially for this world and this universe. And so like, yeah, and especially seeing the nightmare sequence like at the end there with him, that just like, it made me want so much more.
Yeah.
Like, I was happy with what I got, and I wanted so much more. So all that combined together made him my favorite character.
I think he definitely redeemed himself in this film. Like, I think redemption is the word of I describe this entire film as, you know what I mean? It's just redemption for that universe.
Yeah, for everybody.
Literally. And so, but him especially, remember how we were talking, I was like, I couldn't kind of come to terms with why Batman and Superman were fighting and what their motivations were. His motivations, that line of dialogue where he's like, I spent so much time trying to tear us apart that I need to bring us together now. It needs to be me. And him learning, and then how dearly Bruce held the promise on the man's grave, which is literally the catalyst that made Batman in the first place. He swore on his parents' grave, and like that, seeing that weight on him force on behalf of Superman again, I really liked. I really loved seeing that. And so he was my favorite character of this movie, but I have to agree with you.
Yeah. So who's your favorite character of this movie?
Honestly, Barry Allen. I love
Barry's up there for me. Yeah. He's definitely up there for me.
Yeah. And his costume, like, we didn't even mention it, and it's one of the best scenes in the movie too, though. Like Wonder Woman's intro scene where she stops the bank robbers or the art robbers, whatever they were.
Yeah.
That was amazing as usual. Yeah. But it was, for me, it was just Barry Allen as our window in. I loved some of the stuff didn't make sense. I thought I don't know but also some of it was so beautiful. Like, I'm not in love with the slow-mo sequence, but like when, you see him, number one, he rips his shoes open, when he pivots, because I
love that. Yeah.
That was so cool. Yeah. And then it makes sense. Like when he's going so fast, all he has to do is like poke the glass of the window, and he just goes through and he rescues Kiersey Clemens. And then you instantly see like the attraction that he has for Iris, which I just love, absolutely love. And then, it was weird when he put the hot dog in his pocket. I was like, what is happening? I was like, don't be weird, man. And then he brings it for the dogs during the job interview. I just love that whole sequence. And then, they were rooting for Cyborg to be the emotional heart. I think Flash was the emotional heart of this film. You know what I mean? I just think there's just so much heart within Barry Allen, who I think is an incredibly difficult character, right? Like, I just think he's tough, man, because I think he's very limited in the stories that have been told about him. Barry specifically, for the fans, I'm a Wally West preferred Flash guy, but what they did with Barry in this film, I just was mesmerized by. And I I only want more, and it only makes me more excited for the new stuff coming forward. And so I really loved it. It didn't redeem the character for me, but I think his motivations were clear. His relationship, the extra scene that we got with him and his dad, you know what I mean? Kind of like their enhanced dialogue was really exceptional. But yeah, I like Ezra Miller as the Flash. I don't know what it is about his quirkiness but him also just being the one to save the day really is what did it for me. And that him running back in time sequence was, that the budget went there, and how they utilized that was amazing. Like, I was really in love with that interpretation of the character. And so the charisma radiating off of him is probably just my heart. So
yeah. Also, Barry's dad is Dr. Manhattan.
Yeah, it's Billy Crudup.
Watchman. Yeah.
Billy Crudup. Great actor. And so seeing some of those familiar faces, and freaking Batman's tactical suit is Night Owl's costume from Zack Snyder's Watchmen as well.
Literally is Night Owl's costume. I wasn't a huge fan of the Justice League costume in this film.
Yeah, I'm like, why do we have to go tactical? Like, why does Batman need sunglasses over the cowl? Like, let's just be cool, guys. Like, literally go. That's perfect.
I like the regular costume.
Perfect with the white eyes that you were talking about, like the.
Yeah, so that's close to the white eyes. I wish they would just give him proper white eyes, but you get what you get.
I still give it. Was it my 9? I still give it a 9. I just loved it.
All right. What was your second question?
Oh, second question.
Did you have 2 questions, or has it?
Yeah. Favorite moment. Mine's obviously Barry's saving time. I think that was my favorite.
Yeah, that moment was so strong. I think the nightmare sequence is my favorite moment.
All right. Yeah.
I'm so obsessed with that future and that world, and like all the stuff with like that we were going to get with all like the time travel stuff, and like Barry coming back, and like nightmare Superman, and like him like tracking them down, all that stuff. I'm obsessed with that, and I want more of that. I wish they just made that movie kind of.
And even how they set it up from the instant that they had like resurrecting Superman. That's what got
and Cyborg getting the visions of it and stuff like
Cyborg, and then he says no,
dreams of it.
It was
yeah. Oh, that was a good moment too. Like
that was a great moment.
Oh, that was good. Yeah. Like it added, because it's a similar scene from like the Whedon Cut, adding that extra layer to it, like Cyborg getting the vision of what's going to happen, what they're unleashing by doing this, and then saying no, but it being too late. I was like, oh, like that's good. That was good. Also, Cyborg's dad dies in this version of the movie, and he's alive in the Whedon Cut. So.
Oh, really? I didn't know that. I forgot.
He survives the Whedon Cut.
Damn, he's the only one.
They don't have that scene of him dying. Yeah, it's funny because in the Whedon Cut, like Steppenwolf gets the last box like off screen.
Oh yeah. I remember that.
Show what happened with that. So now I understand why they did that.
They took the footage.
They just had the boom tube come down.
They just had the boom tube footage, and they're like, "Oh, he's got it now." And it's like, oh, "Okay,
yeah, okay, fine, sure, yeah, I guess he has it now. Okay, that was easy. Yeah, everyone go home." Yeah.
Oh my gosh, that is so.
Yeah.
That's exactly what happens.
Also with that scene. With that scene, having Superman like actually like try to kill Batman, and like rather than Batman, like that "do you bleed" thing from the Whedon Cut when Superman says it to Batman, that was the other time I wanted to blow my brains out. It was the brunch thing, and then when he said the "do you bleed," I was like, kill me now. Please, I'm going to go to the bathroom and take a 5-minute pee break. So like, that having the gauntlet thing was cool. Like the energy absorbing gauntlets, like that was pretty fun. Yeah. And like seeing that like Superman was like trying to kill Batman, like he would have killed him had Lois not shown up. That was awesome.
I think that made more sense. I'm like, some of the stuff that they took out of the Snyder Cut from like and replaced in the Whedon Cut, I just didn't. I was like, oh, that could have been in there. Yeah, that could have been in there. Like they could have salvaged a lot of this movie.
It's like, did you need like especially like some of those scenes like in the field with Clark and Lois at like at his mom's at Kent Farm?
Yeah.
Like you could have just used those exact same scenes in the Whedon Cut. Why did you reshoot them with his rubber face?
Yeah,
like seriously. There was no need to reshoot some of that stuff. And we just had more rubber face than we needed. And it's like, I don't know. Maybe they were going like, oh, let's just have as much rubber face as possible so people just get used to it. But
you're like,
I didn't get used to it.
You're like, I did miss the Superman elephant scene. That was a classic one. With the kids, I was like, oh man. Okay, well, those are my last two questions. That's what I had for us. We know our rankings, and it is an exceptional, great film. Really great.
Yeah, what an ending, man! What an ending. Because nothing is impossible, but I'm fairly confident this is the last time we'll see a Zack Snyder Justice League movie.
You know, Jack, I think you hope, and I hope that we are both proven wrong. So
I hope we're wrong. Yeah. And if not, if we're proven right, maybe we'll get like a cool comic book that continues the story.
Absolutely. Alrighty. Well, that pretty much wraps us up for this episode of a Worthless Film podcast. So, Jack, thank you.
What a journey we've been on.
Oh my God. I'm like as sweaty as ever, and it's in a good way. It is in a good way.
I'm about to spend the next 4 hours watching it all over again.
Oh, you best believe I'm about to restart that movie. All righty, man. Thank you so much for being on.
Thank you, everybody. Our hopes and dreams travel with you.